Hi friends, my name is Kyle Malnati, and for the last 2 years I've been the host of the Kyle Malnati Show, which is a podcast and YouTube show that has been geared towards connecting with real estate investors, specifically in Denver, Colorado, and I've had a really fun time doing that. But over the last couple of years, I've started to have a more national audience that is real estate professionals, specifically realtors. And as the broker owner of my own firm, my goal is to connect with you on a national level and share some encouragement, also to empower you and to educate you with best practices from my friends. These are folks that I've met and interacted with across the country. And so we are announcing that we're going to be launching the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. It's going to be for folks that are interested in real estate brokerage and interested in getting better at what they do on a daily basis. The word calibrate is all about this intentional change, this intentional iteration, working towards a better future. And so I'm very excited to be launching this new podcast and having new episodes for you to watch. It's been a year since I've been in this room, and I'm so excited for you to watch this next episode. So enjoy the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. Broadcasting from the Mile High City, I'm Kyle Malnati, and this is the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, and I want to say thank you to all of the folks that have transitioned from the Kyle Malnati Show to our new podcast. This is episode number 2. I am virtually sitting here with Lucy Fite from Lou Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. Lucy, thank you so much for being on our podcast today.
Thanks, Cal. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Lucy and I have become friends, at least virtually here. We're connecting over an app called Zoom, and we've become friends because we are both honorees of this prestigious recognition called Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30. So, Lucy, that accomplishment stands for itself. But let's go back in time a little bit. Why'd you start this real estate journey? Why did you become a realtor? What prompted you to get into the real estate business?
Yeah, and that question's always kind of easy for me to answer. Real estate for me runs in my blood. I've got a mother in the business. She has a generation before her and a generation before her. That was all in the real estate business. So for me, I think it was not a matter of what, it was a matter of when. So I think I always say, if I was a kid holding my first chalkboard that says first day of kindergarten, it says, what do I want to be when I grow up? It would have said realtor, no problem, So for me, it was always a path that I was taking, even through high school, through college. It was I set out right after I had graduated my undergrad. About 3 months later, I was licensed.
Awesome. Now, Lucy, you've become the broker owner of a locally owned boutique called Lou Realty, and
Yes.
You were telling me as we were prepping for this that you grew that over the last 3 years, and congratulations on that anniversary, from a small group of just about 3 people to now 11. So that can't happen by accident. You've had some success. Obviously, Realtor Magazine recognized you for it. So what do you think are some factors that have contributed to your success personally and things that our audience can learn from you?
Sure. Yeah. So, and really Lou Realty Group has my blood, sweat, and tears in it. Like I said, when we had celebrated our 3-year anniversary, that was huge for us. And, I think for some of our clients are thinking it's only been 3 years, growing from a team of 3 to a team of 11. We are small and mighty, we focus on quality and not quantity. So for us, I think that, and I think every one of the agents everybody that we've worked with, consistency is so important to us. Consistency with our clients, consistency with the way that we do business. That has definitely contributed to where we are today, where my success came from, where the Realty Groups has come from. But consistency, whether we're dealing with, $100,000 transaction, $1 million transaction, that transaction is not treated any differently. Again, a goal of consistency is something that we pride ourselves in, that we know that we can exceed our clients' expectations, meet our clients' expectations, and achieve our goals.
I think that's so important. As a broker owner of my own boutique, I've learned that as well, that it's pretty obvious, and I know that a lot of people talk about real estate as a relationships business, but when you have relationships with people, you really can't pick and choose, and it feels inappropriate to pick and choose. Well, I'm only going to work on this type of real estate, and I'm only going to do the luxury side of it. I'm not going to deal with maybe a smaller single-family home or a condo. And I think as broker owners and boutiques, that's our responsibility to say, look, we're here to serve the community. And it doesn't matter, big or small, we're here to help you, and we're going to give you the same level of professionalism, whether it's a smaller deal or a medium size, maybe they're a reload buyer, or maybe it's this person that's going to be buying a luxury home. We treat them all with the same amount of respect and same quality of service.
Absolutely.
All right, so when we talk about success, which you've had a lot of, every success is born out of failure, in my opinion. And the reason why this podcast is called Calibrate, the reason why my brokerage business is called Calibrate Real Estate, is that I feel like I've constantly learned out of failure. I feel like I learn maybe the quickest through getting my hand burned as I touch the stove. And so for you, I'm sure that there's some experiences that you've had in your career, both being a real estate broker, the tactician that's working on a transaction, but also being a broker owner that's operating a local business and as a business owner. So talk to me about some of those things that you're like, man, I kind of grimace when I say this was a failure I had to learn from. Truly, it's a learning experience. And how do you iterate? How do you make that better after you have those learning experiences?
Yeah, you know what? So I can quite literally relate to you on the stove situation. I had quite early on to my real estate career, I had a buyer closing on a transaction. We conducted a final walkthrough, went to closing, and I had followed them back to the property after closing. Come to our surprise, we had no brand new stainless steel, gas burner stove. It was there at our final walkthrough. That was there when they offered on the property. They're surprised it was gone. So of course, we're kind of frantically tracking down this moving stove. And it just, for lack of a longer story, the seller had just decided to take it with them. And while I don't think it was anything, as far as contractually that I could have controlled, it was a matter of now we've closed and we no longer have a stove. Unfortunately, I think that I was not confident that the sellers would do the right thing. So the stove was not coming back. And if it was coming back, it was going to be over, maybe a small claims or some sort of litigation. And I did not want my buyers, my newly first-time home buyers to have to be dealing with the problem and trying to find a solution. So I did. I went to our local Home Depot and got that same exact brand new stainless steel gas burner stove. And you know what? My clients definitely won't let me forget it. They constantly remind me that it was the best closing gift. And while I'm not always giving out gas burner stoves now at every closing, it's something that resonated with them, that they had the confidence then and moving forward from the referral, that I am one of integrity, that honesty is important to me, and that always doing the right thing is always going to be the right thing. So I think that quite literally, like I said, I could relate to. But my biggest learning curve being a real estate broker owner, I'm a working broker, so I'm not a managing broker. I'm working, a brokerage just like all my salespeople are, and recognizing when you need help. I think that for a long time I was thinking that, 15-hour days, Monday to Monday, were normal. And that, I was so concerned that, somebody couldn't take care of my clients the way that I want them to be taken care of, or the way that I do it. I think that, the way that I did it is probably not always the right case. And so I had started implementing an internship program with the university that I had graduated from. And I would take on an intern each semester. And they would take on a role of marketing and some admin, kind of picking up where I needed to be more so with clients or, generating new business. And that was great. That help was exactly what I needed to taste to know that I knew I needed it. However, the turnover every semester started becoming another issue of mine. So that in itself, every one of those interns was amazing, and eventually turned into a full-time role, which is crucial. It is an integral part of our brokerage, of my business. And I think that learning curve in itself is one of those things where it's like, the horse that's thirsty but doesn't go to the lake to drink type of thing. But I was certain that something had to change. And so being, broker owner, everybody else is always on a learning curve. You're with it, on it with them. And so that would probably, those two things I could say predominantly are my easiest ones to explain.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you when it becomes the point in time where you've been producing at such a high level by yourself, and you realize I can't get any further ahead on my own efforts. That's a very humbling decision. And then I think what happens is high achievers naturally run at a very high rate. And you get someone who's maybe new in the business or is a college intern, and this is kind of a part-time gig for them. And all of a sudden what happens is you get frustrated because they're not going at the same speed of
Right.
Lucy or of Kyle. And that's one of the hardest things about hiring is that as a hard charging person, I had to realize that not everybody's going to move at the speed of Kyle. And then the other part of this too is that the accolade 30 under 30 is one that is an accolade of youthfulness. And I have found as I've interviewed, so I'm working on a book that chronicles the lives and learning experiences of 30 under 30 honorees over the last 15, 20 years. And one of the things I've learned consistently is that recognition is one of self-accomplishment and one of diligence personally. But then what happens after that, a lot of these recognition folks that have been recognized with the honor have become broker owners, have become big team leaders, and they're now having to learn how to teach and train others to do how they have done. And that's harder. It's a lot harder than just knowing what's going on in between your own mind, in between the ears, as people will say. So I agree, it's very, very difficult when you have that first hire and then continuing to build on it. But clearly you've done well enough that you've grown that 3 times now, going from 3 to 11 people, and you'll continue to. I'd imagine that you continue to double in size as you go along.
Yeah, we hope so.
So best practices are some of the things we're talking about, and I want to get very tactical here. I want to get very specific. This podcast, there's 3 main goals of this podcast. It's to encourage, to empower, and to educate realtors. So on that education piece, talk to me just a little bit about the things that you do on a daily basis that set your brokerage apart, the things that you feel like, gosh, this is one of our branding wow points. This is one of the things we just do really well.
Sure. Yeah. You know what? And I think that I can give you definitely a piece of tangible items. So for us, branding is so, so important. And it's important for us that because we're proud of it, because we want people to, there's not one person that I know of, that I familiarize myself with, my friends, my family, anybody in my sphere that doesn't know that I sell real estate. And a lot of that has contributed to our actual branding. So and I don't know if you can see this, but maybe let me try to give you a good example. So, okay, you can see, kind of like a uniform, right? Well, sure. that logo, whether it be the full Lou Realty Group, we have a couple of variations of a monogram, and we put it on everything. I mean, shirts, clothes, shoes. My husband has a pair of boxers with it on. I mean, there is never not a time that I'm not, wearing the jersey of Lou Realty Group. And whether it's a Monday at 9 a.m. or a Saturday evening going out with friends, it's something that is kind of become almost comical, I think, to some people, is that I take off like one layer, a winter coat, and the vest I have on underneath has Lou Realty Group on it. But it has been something that has been fun, for our clients to engage in. Just the other day, we had a client of ours on their honeymoon, and brought our koozies. It took a picture of us at the beach and said Lou Realty Group in, St. Lucia or in England, So, I mean, it's something that we have fun with, and it's a big part of our social media. We always kind of joke that if you come too close to us, we'll start branding you. But people, people want it. I have, some of my buddies go golfing with our shirts, and it's just something that's fun. And it has been such a tactical part of our branding, advertising, marketing. It's something that we're proud of. So that definitely, I think, is something tangible that I can give, that we do, that maybe, some others are doing, but it's fun.
It's interesting to me, and I may be taking a little bit of a reach here, but I get the sense that maybe you enjoy fashion and you enjoy clothing, and that's part of it. And I think the cool thing about that, all joking aside, is that you've got to be proud of your brand. And I think that as a realtor, that's the takeaway that I have, is that you cannot be shy about sharing what you're about, whether it's just making sure that at a friend's barbecue, they know that you're in the business of helping people buy and sell homes. And that you're creating lasting memories for people as they intersect in real estate. And or you've got literally the branding on you as you're walking into a closing, and there's a professionalism with that. There's so many industries that we naturally go into that we see people have a name tag. They've got the company brand on, and I think that local boutiques, local owners maybe forget that at times. So I think that's really smart on your part. And your clients have fun with it, which is really cool too. And then that way they're bragging on you instead of it always being something that you're promoting.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, it's something that, should be discussed, but it's that I think for us that we're so enthusiastic about it, so passionate about it, that there's never an opportunity that we don't want to be able to talk about real estate. So it's super good conversation starter too.
Awesome. Well, I have become an avid reader over the last couple of years. I wasn't when I first started in my career, but I've really done that because I got some advice a while back that leaders are readers. Leaders are people that continually educate themselves, are constantly setting the pace for the people that are working with them or following them. And as a leader, it's your job to continue to educate yourself outside of formal high school or college education. So books are important to me. I constantly have a book either literally in hand. I like to be able to highlight books, but I also am a big consumer of books on CD, Audible, any way that you can listen to a book. And I feel like the podcast medium is really a book that's being narrated to you in real life. And so talk to me about a book that has marked your career, if there's a particular book that really meant a lot to you and why it was important.
Yeah, sure. So, and I really couldn't agree with you more there. I think that readers, like you said, are leaders. It should be such an integral part of everyday life and business and that. And Audible, Audible has changed my life, I think, for most realtors and people in general. Turning it on when you get in the car. I think I've gone like months without a radio on. So for me, and I even, like you said, whether you have a book in hand, whether you've purchased it on your iPad or your virtual reader, or you're listening to it, those things are so important. And so, I really have enjoyed The Miracle Morning. I think I has quite a lot of sequels. I've read both The Miracle Morning and The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. So I think that's an excellent one for everybody in our industry to take a look at. It really kind of hones in on how important time scheduling is, how important your day starts and ends. And there's so many pieces of advice you could take from it. It has been a really good one that I'd recommend. I've also listened to a few good podcasts that I think are equally competitive with Audible. Yours is such, right? But how I built this is about a ton of entrepreneurs and what their story was. I really enjoyed Tim and Julie Harris at their I think Real Estate Coaching Radio is what it's called. So I could go on for days about things that I like to listen to, read, but those are a few good pieces.
Well, and my takeaway, whether it's a book, whether it's Audible, whether it's a podcast, is that you made that point that it's been months since you've gotten in the car, just listen to the radio. And I think one of the most important things for salespeople, business owners, realtors, is to make sure that you control your mindset and what comes into your mind on a daily basis. There's so much negativity in the world, and that's not anything new. That's existed for centuries. We're in a world that's fractured and has problems, and there's wars and things of that sort. And so I think what you can do to really control your mindset and have positive, good information, learning while you're driving to an appointment, I think really sets you up for a better life. And Miracle Morning, I'm glad that you brought that up, because our last podcast that we had recorded, our guest Karen Briscoe, who's an author, she said that she was very much influenced by Hal Elrod, and Hal actually endorsed her book that she just wrote about a year ago. And as a thank you for you being on the show, I'm actually giving you this. I didn't mention this to you. Giving you an autographed copy of Karen's book. So Karen's book is called Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day. So Hal Elrod endorsed this book that I'm giving to you by Karen Briscoe, and Hal says this: a fundamental principle of the Miracle Morning for real estate agents is that readers are leaders. We just talked about that. And that most top agents read a minimum of 5 to 10 pages per day. To sell real estate at a high level, start your Miracle Morning with Karen Briscoe's Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day. It's a book that can truly help you accelerate your success and transform you into a top producing agent. So that was Hal Elrod, #1 best-selling author of The Miracle Morning. And so as a gift, I'm going to mail this out to you. And the cool thing about it, Karen was on our podcast. She's on the first episode. She's based out of the Washington, D.C. area in McLean, Virginia. She's been a realtor for years. And she has just realized that so much of success is daily fundamentals, daily blocking and tackling. And so the cool thing about this is 1 page to 2 pages a day. It gives you some inspiration, gives you some tactical wisdom, talks about lead generation. I think it's a great book for anybody to pick up.
Oh, good. I'm excited about it.
So we had talked about this at the beginning, but it's something that's worth talking about again. You were
Sure.
recently recognized this year as the class of 2017 for Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30 issue, which is such a huge success and honor. That's something that I received in 2012, and it changed my life. It's given me an opportunity to connect with people like you. And so just for a moment, if you kind of reflect on, gosh, what that journey was like to even embark on making that application, which is like a college essay. I mean, it's not,
My
it's like
gosh.
15 college essays, I should say. And then secondly, just kind of what doors that's opened for you, and what opportunities you feel like that's given to you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think, like you said, the journey of it, getting there is quite involved, from the start of your application process to the start of getting like your first call that you've made it to another prelim round. And I mean, it's intimidating in the sense that, you're competing with some of just the best of the best that, the across the nation, the movers and the shakers. And, to think that your ideas are second to none, I'm sure. But, it was such an incredible experience and so humbling to finally, come that March and you deliver that the news that you're an honoree, and it's just so exciting. It certainly has opened so many doors for me. I think number one has given me the ability to connect with people like yourself, connect with people across the nation that really are open to sharing ideas and growing and helping. And any piece of advice that those people can give, you just take wholeheartedly, that you're able to learn, again, from some of the best. And it also gives you so much confidence that what you're doing, what you've been doing, not only been recognized maybe by yourself or your clients or your agents, but it's recognized now at a level that has been an accomplishment and a goal of mine for quite some time. It's actually even given me, like I mentioned, the confidence to say that what I know, I want to make sure is instilled in others. So it has allowed me to develop that type of system and ensure that I'm doing a job at it that allows me to be able to teach somebody, where I've been and where I'm going and where I want to be at. So it has been such an incredible experience so far, and I know it will be so tenfold for forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was certainly exciting. Most exciting part of 2017, that's for sure.
It's so cool. Congratulations. And like I had mentioned, the mission of this podcast is to encourage, empower, and educate real estate agents. And so a lot of what I heard in there is that, there's encouragement in a recognition like that. Obviously, it's on such a national level and such a small group of people under the age of 30. So it's this elite group. But I found with so many of us that we have self-doubt just like anybody else would. And I think it's important for someone that maybe isn't at the phase of the career that maybe you and I are to understand that we've had days that have been horrible. We've had days where we've had clients that have said things to us that we wish we'd never hear again. We've had days where we just feel like we've been knocked down and beaten up and don't want to get up. And the encouragement part of that is that you can do it. And then hopefully that message empowers people to actually get up and continue fighting. And then the education part of it, I love that you said, now it's my responsibility to take some of what I've learned and educate others and really pass along that knowledge. It's not to stay inside, which is why we're having this interaction here on the podcast. Final question, it's one of my favorites. So
Yes.
talking about maybe that younger broker, maybe that person that you're mentoring, I believe that really being a mentor is about providing advice that I wish I knew when I was 22. And that's kind of fun. It's catchy. It rhymes. But the reality is, now that I'm in my mid 30s, my wife and I have 3 kids in elementary school. I'm operating a brokerage. There's a lot of stuff that I've learned in the last 14 years that I could impart to someone who just got into the business, maybe very anxious and nervous and just doesn't know what to do. So what advice would you give to a young realtor, someone that's interested in getting into the real estate business?
Sure. Yeah. You know what? And I think that for this question, it's immensely important for me to say that I think a lot of my limitation came from that I was never quick to celebrate a success, celebrate a win. All of that was kind of delayed. It was never, my first 10 clients, I had to get 20 clients. My first $1 million in production had to be 5 million. And, I think that always, striving to meet a goal and to hit a goal is as important as setting them. And when you do hit them, you're celebrating that success. So I think that in itself has been something that was hard for me to do and even like celebrate, those wins that we're having now. I think the second thing is it's very important to stay humble in this business. The business can be lucrative. It can be one that's easy entry, easy exit. Staying humble, that knowing that you always have something to learn, whether it's from another associate, whether it's from a salesperson or your client. Learning should never quit. It's something that can't be taken away from you. So it should be an integral part of your business, and staying humble with that, knowing that there's always something more that you can improve with, that you can learn from, is so important. And I think the most interesting dynamic part of our group is that, we certainly instill, having the passion in real estate, but investing in real estate is so important to us. I started with it at a very young age with it. I got into the business when I was around 22, bought my first piece of property when I was 22. So now being in the business about 5 years, we own right a little over 25 properties that we own and manage. We do other real estate investing when it comes to saving maybe those properties that need some attention, those that need some work on them, foreclosures, etc. So I think that in itself, if you believe in real estate, you're selling real estate, you should be investing in it. We've got a lot of wins with that too. So that's super important to us, which I would instill in really anybody entering the industry.
All right. So anyone that's young, that's listening to this, or someone, not even if you're young, if you're just getting into real estate, rewind the last 2 minutes and re-listen to that, because that is pure gold. So I'm going to just recap that very briefly, because I love everything you said. And the three things that I heard, number one, delaying gratification. That is so difficult in our business, in a business where there's a lot of lucrative commissions that can be earned. And in some cases, if you're working with luxury homeowners, or in my case, if you're working with real estate investors, people that are very successful, you can look at that flashy new car that someone's got, or this, or the broker that's sitting 2 doors down from you, or 2 cubes down from you, just got this new car, and you're like, man, I thought I was doing better than him or her. And so delaying gratification, that's slow and methodical, the tortoise always wins, is very important. And that creates sustainable success long term, right? Not this flash in the pan. This is going to be sustainable success. The second thing, being humble. And out of being humble is humility. It's thinking of yourself less, thinking of others more. And I think in our culture right now, we've got this confusion between humility and humiliation, that somehow when you're humble, you're going to be humiliated, and that someone's going to make fun of you, or that you're subservient to someone. And true service, true customer service is a wonderful thing, and it's our responsibility as realtors. And then finally, real estate investing. I'm a commercial realtor. I help people buy and sell apartment buildings. Before we started this podcast, I had done over 30 episodes with real estate investors on best practices and how you do that. And that was called the Kyle Malnati Show. And so without any prompting, you dive right into that. And the coolest thing that we talked about prior to taping this is that not only do you invest in real estate, but your office, you've paid off, and it's free and clear. And talk to me just briefly, talk to our audience about why you made that decision. I have an idea of why it was, but what was it about, hey, let's get this paid off, and let's have a situation where we're maybe not as exposed?
Sure. Yeah. You know what? And really, I think when it kind of goes back to why I wanted to get into real estate, why. And I, from a very early age, my mother definitely instilled in me that whole waste not, want not, I think I can always kind of live my life with a little discomfort, I'm always, I don't need to have, the latest and the greatest type of thing. If, if maybe the air wasn't working in my car for a little while, for instance, now I got that fixed, but for a little while, it wasn't a priority of mine. But for me, like it is so important to have a financial security. That again, kind of before that we celebrate these successes, we're making sure that that we're able to sustain growth, that we're able to sustain a future for both financially, personally, financially with the office in itself, the agents that we take on. So when I had set out to look at this building, to purchase this building. I fell, absolutely in love with this building. But it was also a goal of mine that, that I had taken that 3-year note out on it, and that was going to be done within 3 years. So it was the consistency that I had. It was a goal of mine, and it was going to be something that I accomplished, and I did. So that has been like very important, just like that whole mindset, whether it was from the purchase of our real estate office to maybe something, bigger than that or smaller than that, that remains consistent. And really passive income from the sense that, what real estate looks like today may not be what it looks like tomorrow. And always keeping that in mind is what I think allows people to sustain the business, and not grow out of it, not easily exit from it, to stay in it and grow and thrive.
I think that's so smart that you did that. And Lucy, I just really appreciate the time that you've spent with me. I think everybody is wiser for having listened to your advice. And thanks so much for joining me on the Calibrate Real Estate Podcast. As I love to say, I'm Kyle Malnati, your host. And for Lucy Fight, we will see you around the neighborhood. Bye, everybody.